many fans you are in this year.
Hello fellow disc golf enthusiasts and welcome back to the continuation of the Åland Open coverage. We are excited to be bringing you round 1 back 9 MPO feature card coverage brought to you by MDG Media. We are in the beautiful Åland Islands between Sweden and Finland in the Baltic Sea. Some incredible altitude, geography and terrain to play disc golf on. I'm Connor Wood and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What is up, Connor? What is up, viewers? Nice to be here once again. We're going to move into the Open for the back 9. Let's take a look at the scores first though. As we saw from our card, Eagle McMahon was just destroying the front 9. Even with a couple of missed putts, able to take the one-stroke lead over the field with plenty of players just behind. And everybody on the card still in good position to attack this back 9. As we start on hole 10, we're moving gradually out of the woods. Hole 10 still being slightly wooded. It's 127 meter going downhill over this bit of a ridge line. You want your shot to be moving straight and then left at the end. Most players are actually going for the wide hyzer route, which is it's a pretty simple shot. You have to push an overstable fairway driver forward, hopefully take a small skip at the end, land on the grass. And don't play too inside because there's OB left at the basket.
Yeah, very precise line required to navigate both the width and the downhill slope. We see Joona playing the swinging hyzer, but not looking like he could crash through the right side, I think, given the downhill green, likely just a short approach shot.
Looks like Joona was playing it a little bit too wide there, and Eagle definitely playing it too wide, hitting some of the earliest trees on the hole. That is going to be very difficult for an approach there.
Eric playing the traditional straight shot, but not quite giving it the height required for the full flight. That one really, as long as you're having a sustained turn, you can push that quite high up just to push forwards over that hill and then let it drop out of the sky. But the hyzer on one angle, very effective as well. Niklas looks to have hit this line beautifully. And you see him sneak out there before that late gap in the trees, right into the circle. Having a slow start in the front 9. Good to see him pick up another birdie chance there.
An Eagle here, having to go with another huge hyzer with the splice. And look at him park the hole. Can't even know which line he chose from there. Probably just going over all the trees.
Eric with some good progress up the fairway, throwing the slow putter right at it, sliding on up a great speed and angle control. Very easy to go long on this green, throwing downhill towards it. Important that you hit the ground beforehand and use the ground play.
Joona also trying to do something similar here. He's put a little bit more hyzer on it than he would probably like. Fading towards that left side OB, but he's safe and gonna have a circle's edge putt for the par. Actually still going before Niklas, so showing off how good that Niklas drive was.
And Joona sneaking out the weak side chains. You saw it go in and bounce out. Just a few chains more for the grab, and Niklas high and left with a lot of speed, but catches his birdie. Has had some struggles so far, especially on the putting green. His throwing has been fairly reliable, at least to circle 2 chances, and catching a lot of metal. Niklas sticks that one. Joona takes the bogey, as we'll see both Eagle and Eric tap in their pars here on hole 10.
Once again, a little bit surprising not to see more birdie looks on this hole, as almost 3/4 of the field were putting for birdie from inside of circle 2. So not the greatest shots from our players on this hole. But the next one, hole 11, an absolute signature hole of the course. You might have seen this already on the internet. 400 meter, huge downhill par 5. Have this OB creek in the between the first and the secondary fairway. You can either choose to go short of it or to go over and possibly try to get that huge Eagle 3. If you go over or short, usually your second shot is still just to the fairway, setting up a pretty simple approach. It's all about position on this hole. If you're not going over, you need to be in bounds twice and then make your approach shot happen. There's OB pretty much all the way around the fairway. The fairway is pretty wide though. You really shouldn't be OB if you're playing safe.
Yeah, an incredibly fun tee shot to throw from the top of the world. On a 400-meter hole, we see Niklas playing a responsible hyzer shot to the right side. This is going to fade downwards and left the entire way, and it may look like that's a little bit short, but that is an absolutely fine position to attack for birdie from. But Eagle here, potentially going to rip a bomb with his distance, and look at the angle control, the speed out of the hand, the glide of the disc. This continues to push forwards. And that is a smash of all smashes, a huge drive for Eagle McMahon, leaving him, 160 to the pin?
Yeah, he's probably well within range from there. What a huge shot. Probably the biggest drive I have ever seen on this hole. You can see Eric is going for the safe hyzer. Trying to find the left side of the bunker. You see that one bunker in the middle of the fairway is playing as OB. So players have to decide for the safe shot whether they want to be right of it or left of it. It looks like both Joona and Niklas went for the right side compared to Eric's left side.
And it is a really thoughtfully placed bunker at that. Very easy to land there with some indecision. As you mentioned, players required to pick a side. We will see Niklas up first. From a placement shot, he's going to look to bite off as much distance as possible now on this second drive. As you see a high turning flex shot coming back inbounds. That is very well played from Niklas, leaving him a good distance, about 100 or so to the green.
Very well played there from Niklas. Let's see if Joona plays a similar shot. Going pretty safe with a high, stable hyzer there. You can see never risking the OB. He's gonna have a similar approach from there. As you can see, it's a pretty simple hole if you have a lot of distance, like all of these guys do.
Yeah, very possible to get the birdie with 3 hyzer shots and a putt here. If you want to push it, you can try to turn things over, but you do see the wind beginning to rip a little bit now, especially on these heavily graded holes with a lot of altitude, either up or down, the wind coming into play, even more so than flat ground. But Eagle McMahon now, his second shot, about 150 meters from the pin, if not a bit more. You see a high hyzer flip, and this is pushing Elias.
Yeah, that angle looks very good. Does he have the distance? And he does! Eagle just outside the bullseye for an Eagle 3 on a 400-meter hole. How crazy is that?
Absolutely insane, as he shows his display of not only power, but total angle control. That is something you will not see too often, ladies and gentlemen. Potential eagle on a 400-meter par 5. Joona now playing the hyzer. There is OB left of the green, and finding that ground play, he will skip OB, although very short putt remaining for what I believe is his par save. Birdie out of play with that penalty stroke. Niklas now likely going to make the adjustment and go wider on his approach, and you see just that.
Yeah, most players trying to play rather wide than tight on this hole. And you can see even Niklas pushing the left side of the basket. It's really nothing as far as danger on the right side. Let's see if Eric goes for the park job or for the right side. Looks like he's aiming a little bit right, just trying to fade it in. And that's a good shot there. So nobody really finding any big trouble here. Only Joona taking that one OB stroke. And this is for par.
Very solid, and an unfortunate OB there after some great shots to get himself just so close to that birdie look. We will see Eric now for his 4. Gets that in, putting himself to 3 under for the round by hole 11.
Yep, well done there from Eric. An eagle. Just 4 meters for the eagle. Almost a tap in. What a play there, showing off that huge arm of his, and he made this look like a par 4.
Incredible. Yeah, that when you see him play this hole, it seems like a fair argument to make it a par 4, but for the majority of the field, par 5 is very reasonable, especially given the OB. A great birdie from Niklas there, and eagle with his namesake. Who else but him to take the eagle 3? Gets knuckles from Niklas.
Deservedly so. And talking about the average of the field, this was a very difficult hole for the majority of the field. 36% of the field actually getting more than a par, so bogeys, double bogeys, and even some triple bogeys were to be had on this one.
It requires some great distance to navigate comfortably, but we'll move on to some of these more big holes. What do we have here, Elias?
Another hole that really rewards distance, either on the forehand or the backhand side. You have OB all around, and even this OB creek in between the fairway and the green. Most players are going for a backhand, either a flat or a flex shot over the right side bushes. I've even seen some huge hyzers around the outside, but really I would expect everybody on the card to take an overstable to stable fairway driver, hammer it pretty hard on the right side flat, hopefully fade their way into the green.
And this is going to require some extreme overstability to come out of that heavy anhyzer release with that much power. Eagle has done just that, gone a little bit long, but to the right side we'll be having a fairly comfortable, slightly downhill putt for birdie. I think just a little bit overturned from Eagle there. Niklas looking like a nice correction to that shot, at least on the stability.
Yep, going with something very overstable there. And he's inside the edge of the circle. Eric is going for, I believe, the more risky route. He's going over the OB with the forehand, over the left side OB, especially with the right to left wind that we had on this hole today. Does he make it back in bounds? And he has not. Taking that big risk, he's going to have to take his third shot way back down the fairway.
Yeah, that is the punishment. A lot of players see this as a straight to rightwards fading shot, and as a result, the forehand comes into their mind. Joona not getting it turned over enough to the right before fading out will be left at a circle 2 par save from about 13 to 15 meters. We see Eric with still some distance, about 70 to the pin, and a great comeback. He'll have a tap-in bogey there.
Good scramble from Eric there. And even on Joona's shot, you could see that right to left wind just pushing the hyzer to the left side OB. And he's having a rough start to the back 9. Let's see if Eagle can make a good one from circle 2.
Just off the band as he has positioned himself at an incredible pace. 8 under already through 12 holes. We see Niklas for his birdie now. He's got 2 in a row. This would make 3.
No, and the wind, you can see from his angle, he had a left to right wind, dropping that slight hyzer release putt out of the air. So it looks like we're gonna have no birdies on this hole. Although it was the 4th most difficult hole, averaging 0.41 strokes above par. So it's no easy hole by any means, especially in this wind.
Quite surprising when you see some of the other holes, but understandable. There's a lot of danger to be had, and one of the windier greens on the course. You see that there.
Moving on to a much easier hole, actually the easiest one on the course. Not a lot of trouble on this hole. You have a couple of routes to take. Most people are going for the dead straight shot. We're going slightly uphill with 94 meters of distance, so a lot of players are throwing a fairway driver, just trying to hit the straight gap. There's also a very good anhyzer or forehand hyzer gap available that is actually even a little bit wider than the straight gap. You can even find some hyzer routes around the right side, which looks like Eagle is going for.
An incredible from Eagle there, crashing down just less than a meter from the basket and skipping long, really giving that the hyzer ace run. and requiring a lot of power to hit this on one angle. A lot of players will get that flip up down the middle or soft turnover. Well executed by Niklas there, getting himself to about 5 or 6 meters right on the edge of that last plateau. Very common that a good drive will fall a little bit downhill of the green due to the slope and be left with an uphill putt. Eric has laced this line. These guys are just dropping bombs on the basket and the green.
Eric even going for the ace there. I believe this is one of the most aceable holes on the course, since you have, even with a not very punishing fairway, you still have a great backstop behind the basket. As Joona has also put it in the bullseye. That was 4 great shots.
4 legitimate runs. We have Niklas, the only one just a little bit short of the chains, but with a healthy and confident putt, finds his birdie there to go 3 under. And I think just some simple cleanups for birdie. You mentioned, Elias, this one playing as the most friendly of the day, and you can see why. That backstop really allowing players to get aggressive, and some players even opting to disc up in order to try and give it a full run, not come up short from what they might traditionally throw.
Yep, and as I said, not a lot of trouble to find on this hole. There was not a single score more than a bogey on this hole, so really telling about how friendly it is, even to some of the errant shots. We're probably not going to take a big number on this one. Moving on to a beautiful, beautiful hole 14. 222 meters on the fairway. If you go straight to the basket, probably a little bit shorter. Really, the first shot is just a setup. Players are trying to throw a straight to overstable driver, get over the creek in the middle of the fairway and land somewhere around here. If you execute your drive, you have a pretty simple approach to this large island. It's not very big. If you have a great drive, you're almost never going to see somebody missing this island. And it is actually not playing with island rules, so if you cross the island, if you throw over the island for example and go OB long, you can take your putt from where you crossed. So it's a pretty simple hole for these players with a lot of power, and you can see Eagle going with something very overstable along the right side.
And that's exactly it. You can use the width going downhill, knowing that the airspace will allow your disc to fade, and that is an ideal location, dead center of the fairway. Niklas here looking to release on a slightly more hyzer angle, less overstable of a disc than Eagle, but good angle control there as he drops himself also in a pretty good position. Will be slightly further from the island than Eagle's lie, but still very manageable, as you mentioned, Elias. A good drive will almost always leave you with a solid upshot.
Eric even putting some slight anhyzer on the disc, but knowing it's an overstable one, he has already turned away and knows that he's got a good look from there. All of these shots, even though both Niklas and Eric were a little bit shorter than what many players are going for, they still only have about 60 meters left to the pin.
And Joona almost going off the front of the tee pad, giving that just a soft hyzer the whole way. Didn't need anything more than that. And you see, same result for him. The tee shot really being the determining factor there, as the upshot is fairly simple. But Niklas still with some distance, looking to spike a hyzer in. Nice and low. Soft ground play. And just like that, he has put himself in the bullseye. The only real danger, I would say, is people who leave their putt a bit too far away. The basket is near the corner, and it is possible to find OB with a missed putt. So you want to get as close as you can.
It looks like that's what these players are doing. Both, I believe, inside the bullseye there. You can see the brown line inside of the island. That was actually where the island, outside of the island, used to be. So this island has been made way bigger for the tournament, just to make it more fair and less gimmicky. As we see Eric here with a great putt. What a putt just outside the circle, pushing his score to 4 under, so still has some good opportunities to shoot a decent round.
As we see the rest of our players with their great upshots, solid execution here on hole 14. Do you have any idea of how difficult it played, Elias, out of curiosity?
This was not a particularly difficult hole, playing well below par. 47% of the field actually getting a birdie, and 1 eagle from Silas Ewald Vive. So, huge shout out to Silas there, getting the only eagle 2 of the day. Hole 15 is actually the shortest hole on the back 9, only 90 meters, although going quite severely uphill at the end. It's a left to right moving shots, many people going with a forehand hyzer here. It's a pretty simple shot, but very difficult to park, as you see this green is full of rocks and this huge rock just under the basket. It's pretty easy to be inside the circle short, just around the edge of the circle, but that sets up for a scary putt.
And we do see Eagle playing the forehand. Great to see him once again comfortable throwing that shot. Did deal with a significant shoulder injury not too long ago and was not throwing forehand for a long time, but looks to have put himself in the circle there here on 15. Niklas as well, looking a little bit wide, will need quite the overstable finish or a skip off the rocks, and he's found just that. Even bouncing back away from the basket off the rocks, but sitting at about 8 or 9. You did mention the danger of this green, Elias, although I think all of these guys, if they're in the circle, wouldn't even consider laying it up, despite the dangers, just adding a little bit more pressure to the putt.
And Eric, being a great forehand player, he's also on that edge of the circle left. You can see it's pretty difficult to push it all the way to the basket. Let's see if Joona can do it with the backhand. I believe the backhand sets up better for the park job, even though it's generally a more difficult shot.
And Joona with an amazing line, just catching that hard rock at the base of the basket, and he will skip off down the hill to the right. He is circle 2, maybe 14 or 15 meters and quite uphill. Gives it a chance, but just a great throw with an unfortunate result off the ground play. Niklas now for his birdie, putting to a drop-off.
Wow, what a great putt. And that is a scary putt, because if you miss the putt, there's a high chance of getting some pretty big bounces off the rocks.
Very possibly where Joona was.
Yeah, I even saw on my card somebody tried to lay up and got a roll away. And Eric also, what a great putt there. Well inside the circle, but having to go to a knee there.
Sticks that one very nicely. Eagle, closest of the bunch, speaks to his forehand prowess. Still there despite not using it as much in recent history. And just like that, you see the danger of a potentially missed putt as he's coming back now uphill from about circle's edge. An important moment for Eagle's round.
A much better angle here going up the hill. But he has hit the cage, needs to stay right there, which he does not. Look at the putter, he's rolled down to the edge of the circle once again. And now this is for bogey.
And he goes wide right, finds nothing at all but that backstop, allowing him to have a short putt remaining. And you see him fire that one in. A double bogey on hole 15, what is for many one of the easier holes at only 90 meters. Feels like a little bit of a sigh of relief after the previous 3 holes. We see a birdie for Niklas and Eric, a par for Joona, and a double bogey for Eagle, putting him back to 8 under. Suddenly, the score separation tightens a little bit.
Yeah, and what a costly double bogey. Pushing his score back to 8 under and being one of only 6 double bogeys on the day. Luckily some scoreboard holes left for these big throwing players. Starting on hole 16, par 5, 293 meters. Not particularly long for being a par 5, although playing very long today since we had a ripping headwind on this hole. First shot you're trying to lay up, you saw the bunker in the middle of the fairway, you're trying to lay up before the bunker, or if you have a huge arm, you might as well go over it. From there, it's another overstable hyzer shot to the fairway, and leaving yourself hopefully with a pretty short approach. Once again, it's a pretty simple hole, kind of like earlier par 5 hole 11 that we saw. If you stay on the fairway and get some good distance, you should have a pretty simple chance at a birdie.
Yeah, definitely possible to throw 3 good pushing hyzers and make your way for the birdie. We see from Niklas there, exactly as you mentioned, pitching up just short of that hazard island, although the islands here are playing as OB, I think, in a measure to not have players throwing from within them. We'll see. Eric, now you see that ripping headwind. It was really noticeable coming out of the more guarded, rocky areas. This open field had just huge winds. And you see that in the flight, Eric pushing all the way up. Very solid drives. That bunker spans from about 135 to 150 meters in its length. So to clear it, you need to be throwing a comfortable 160.
As we see Joona also going with the very good looking hyzer. Needs to check up, and he does. Kind of pushing the left side OB. Most players are rather trying to push the left side OB than the right side, since you're going over OB on the right side for the whole way of the flight. So if you end up there, it's a disaster and you will have to almost re-tee. But everybody on our card in bounds, and those are some good setups for the birdie. Need just another one of those similar overstable hyzers, and then you only have a putter or a mid-range approach.
Niklas up first. Once again, going to be looking to release on that hyzer angle, especially into headwind. You do not want to get anything too severely turned over, and he just beats that little inlet of OB. That will give him a great straight look. If you can get more left on this second shot, it does give you a much more straight, open look to the green. If you play more to the right side fairway, it's more of a forehand hyzer or backhand turnover shape. We see Joona giving this a lot of height, as he is one to do, and as he pushes towards that OB island, keeps it just safe as well near Niklas's lie. 2 very good positions.
Slightly surprising to see those players go so far left, since the fairway is very wide to the right. Let's see if Eagle... He's also playing it a little bit to the left, getting that turn though, and this is just a huge shot. Look at that distance. He has just a short pitch putter shot to the basket from there.
And you could see with the distance some of these guys are getting, even potentially able to find some low scores here. The birdie looking very manageable with hyzers. Niklas coming in a little bit fast to the green, and there's a soft slope there leading towards another OB island, which you could see the spotter needing to check on that one. I would guess he's safe, but could have found danger. Joona now trying to access the green, wants to control the pace and angles.
What a nice shot there. Perfectly played. Only has about 5 meters left. And Eric here, we did seem to miss Eric's second shot, but this is for 3. Just having to pitch up a short forehand to the basket. And going inside the basket here. What a great eagle. This is not a hole you would ever think about eagling, especially in this headwind.
Eagle 3 with the overstable mid-range forehand. You see the love from the card. An incredible throw-in from about 50 to 60 meters. Almost blind around the corner. Gets the love from the spotter. Well earned. Even mentioning to the crowd what a pleasure it is to be here playing in Åland during this round. And he has thrown it in. Gives the fist bump. Our second eagle here on round 1 coverage. Incredible stuff.
Wow, what a huge moment there for Eric. And also for his score to go 7 under. He's really pushing for some of the hotter rounds of the day. And gotta give a quick shout out to the spotter on this hole. One of the most, how do I call it, good-mooded spotters I have ever seen on a disc golf course. Just absolute pleasure to be around the guy. Always excited to wave the flags. As we saw Niklas just coming off low there, and Joona with a good birdie putt.
Yeah, touching on the volunteers a little bit, it was an incredible energy here in Åland. The support and the supporting individuals, all of the spotters, the volunteers, the organizers had an incredible passion and enthusiasm for bringing disc golf to their islands. And even met a local politician from Åland up at the tee of hole 11 who mentioned that it is an incredibly great opportunity for them to cultivate some of the interest in Europe for Åland as a destination for disc golf. A very unique location.
Yep, very unique location, and this being the first big tournament, big international tournament on the islands. Great to see as we move on to hole 17. A pretty simple hole, playing at 110 meters. Actually, the straight distance to the basket is exactly 100, so pretty short. Open hole, there's really nothing in the way. Most players are going for an overstable hyzer with fairway driver. Have the OB lining pretty much all sides of the fairway. That is the biggest difficulty on this hole. And today, of course, the big headwind that we had.
Eric up first, playing nice and wide. The wind on this one was pushing a little bit headwind as well as right to left, so important to use that width, or very commonly players were finding long or OB to the left side. Good shot by Eric there will put him in position. Definitely the windiest green of the course, so you want to get as close as you can. Joona has hung this out a bit wide. We'll see that right to left wind swing him in, but not enough height to get really too far left. We'll have a tough putt.
It's a pretty simple hole to get to circle 2. Actually, 3/4 of the field were inside of circle 2 or closer. As we see Eagle going for a very overstable hyzer here. Great looking line, and he's in the bullseye. What a perfect shot there. It looks like already after 2 holes he's going to be clear of that double bogey he had on 15.
Very solid. I think this hole, when it's not windy, would be just a stock hyzer and putt for a lot of these players. We see Niklas, though, get that one slightly turned over, paddling back towards the end with that leftwards fade. Similar to Joona, is left with a long putt. Some great bleachers to the right of the fairway, offering quite a gallery on this hole and some great energy. A lot of claps and cheers for great shots and great putts. We see Joona up first. Long look at birdie. A lot of loft and off the cage. What was a right to left wind off the tee was a tailwind for his putt, just slamming it downwards. Hence why he putted just so high. Niklas with the same thing now.
Niklas got a pretty good read out of that, but not putting any height. You can see the wind just slamming the putter down. And Joona had an unfortunate roll there. Gonna have to make a long circle 1 putt still. But Eric first here for the birdie, and not quite to be. That was a very important stroke.
So him giving it the height for that very reason, but a little bit too much. And Joona now on the way back, somehow still looking like the wind dropped his putter at the last second despite going in the opposite direction. One of the windiest greens and incredibly gusty.
Yeah, somehow the wind in Åland is pretty difficult to predict. I feel like there's a lot of unexpected results, especially for putting. As we saw, our card actually averaging even par on this hole. Very surprising. It's one of the more simple birdies. And talking about simple birdies, not very likely to be hole 18. It's the 3rd most difficult hole on the course. Par 4 with 255 meters off distance. On the drive, you're trying to get over this OB creek. OB on the left side all the way, and OB also on the right side coming into play on the other side of the fairway. If you throw your good hyzer drive to the sweet spot, you only have about 100 to 110 meters left to the basket, even shorter if you get a huge drive. And then you have this OB bunker once again in the middle of the basket. OB long, OB left, and OB right. Need to be incredibly precise with the approach. But the drive is pretty stress-free for these big distance players. If you just throw an overstable disc straight, get a good fade, you're almost always in bounds on this one.
And there's a little pocket on this tee protected that makes it difficult to read the wind further down on the fairway where you're throwing. We see Eagle just crushing the hyzer here, sailing well long of where you need to be and actually almost finding the OB long. Getting a lot of leftwards movement will reduce the distance remaining on his upshot. Very good position to be.
Yeah, that was a big drive. Big drive for sure. Gonna set up for a straight or a turnover shot to the green. As we see Eric going for a very similar angle, just a bit shorter. But I believe Eric might even have the better angle to the green, since he has both the left to right moving shot and the right to left moving shot open from that angle.
Yeah, very well said. Eagle will be playing alongside the edge of the fairway of hole 1, this course looping back towards the tournament tents just straight ahead of the tee here. Niklas, not quite liking his release or pivot point on the tee, looks down at his feet, but an absolutely fine throw right up there by Eric.
And Joona, not quite sure what that green disc that he's been throwing all around is, but that seems to be very overstable. And once again going for a safe, slight hyzer release and getting even that hyzer fade. Not a very long drive, he's gonna have more than ideal distance left to the green, but should be just okay for him.
Yeah, and that hazard right before the basket as well as OB behind the basket, really encouraging players to hit their distance perfectly in order to not take any extra penalties on this last hole. As we see him skip towards out of bounds, but gets the green flag from the spotter. Very nicely done. It's not a huge distance available. This is Niklas now.
Yeah, Niklas has a great hyzer angle to the green from here. And this needs to get down before the left OB just barely sticks it inbounds. You can see left OB is just outside the circle there. So very tight approach, both with the angle and the distance control. You only got 10 meters on each side of the basket. And Eric actually going for an interesting anhyzer angle here.
And just not able to fade leftwards, even pushing it long if it did find the fade. Eric goes OB, will have a long putt to try and save par. Eagle here pinched on the right side, playing a very difficult line, I think. The most difficult position to access with the spike hyzer, and he sneaks out the left. I think that location on the fairway really presented a left to right shaping shot rather than a right to left. But Eagle still opting for the spike hyzer finds a touch too much ground play. Eric with the chance. A touch low, but a great round put together for him here in round 1.
Let's see if Eagle can save that 10 under double digits round. And he cannot. Wow, what a frustrating error on this final hole for him. And Joona also chaining out. Wow, the basket just not accepting the putts right now.
We'll see if Niklas can break through the impenetrable chains on hole 18. Just like that, puts in the lone birdie of our feature card to get 6 under. You see that back 9, very stark contrast to his front 9, where he took almost exclusively pars. Niklas trying, finally putting together a great finish to his round. Joona with a little forehand stab putt to end out at 3 under for his round. Eric at 6 under with that final bogey. And Eagle ending at 9. 2 incredible eagles from both Eagle McMahon and Eric Oakley. A lot of great birdies and the bogeys coming into play as well as it does for everyone in Åland. Incredibly difficult course to go bogey free on.
Yeah, especially with today's wind. Course was playing very difficult, actually averaging a stroke above par for the whole field. So those were some good rounds from the guys, especially from Eagle. As we take a look at the top 10, Hjalte Jensen shredding the course in the morning, going 10 under. Right after him, Scott Stokely, Eagle McMahon from our card, and Miro Ryhänen, player from Finland that has been playing very well, and that will make for our lead card for round 2. Thank you, Connor.
Thank you, Elias, and thank you to everyone who joined us for this incredible coverage. We appreciate your support immensely. If you would like to support us, you can like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, as well as if you're feeling extra supportive, check out the Patreon. All of the support for European disc golf coverage goes a long way, and make sure to join us for the continuation of the event over on round 2. See you there.